That was Tom Ford and his team that wanted to do a cherry. And they were pushing me to go, I was just like, no, this is really, really cherry. Concentrate on doing things that smell good, that have got a signature. There's a certain violence sometimes in some fragrances. I wish I did know, because I'd be a billionaire, you know.
Louise, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
And congratulations on a new fragrance.
Thank you.
Cedrus de Nuit. And you worked with Quentin on this.
I did work with Quentin on this. I mean, Quentin and I have worked quite a lot together. I mean, Quentin did the original Cedrus, which was all about this whole story of branches of wood. I think it's a different take on how we approach cedar. I think it was also this whole idea of the air, the light moving through the wood. And I think that Cedrus is something which is very contrasted, you know, has a lot of texture. And so going from that, we actually did the Intense together. Well, we've worked a lot together. I did Nomade. We've worked on a lot of other projects as well together. So we know each other for a very long time, so it's very easy to work together.
It's clear you've got a really good dynamic.
Yeah, we've got a very good dynamic. You know, we've worked together since Quentin was a young perfumer. You know, when he came out of the school, and you know, he's someone who's extremely talented, and so I feel privileged that I've got that opportunity to work with him. So.
And I mean, you've worked on some incredible fragrances. How do you approach something that is de nuit, so of the night? How does it? How does a fragrance sort of differ between the day and the night? I
suppose you're looking for something like a little bit more, certainly because it's flowers, you know, it's talking about the flowers. So we were actually like looking for a flower that would fit with a flower that does bloom at night. So I mean, obviously you've got things that are quite intoxicating, so sort of jasmines and things like that. And so I think actually finding something that was appropriate for Cedrus. So looking and finding the Queen of the Night, I think was actually something a little bit out of the ordinary. You know, it's something that perfumers we dream of a little, because it's something that has a certain exoticism, and obviously there's no oil, so it's like it's a reconstitution, and it's an amazing looking flower. So I think it's I suppose it's also looking for something that brings, when it's night, something warmer, something a little more sensual. I think it's without becoming something that's over. I think Chloé is never really like Boss in a way. They've never got like a sort of, they're never in seduction or sensuality that is kind of over the top. It's something that's always a little kind of
understated.
Exactly, understated is the word. So I think you have to remain that way. So we are in something that's more vanillic, definitely. I think that, you know, vanilla became a part because the Queen of the Night is a vanillic note, but it's also a little spicy. It's a little white flower. It's, I suppose, balsamic, you know, it's got a balsamic character to it. So I think that's why we went down this route for a night flower.
And I should say, it is absolutely gorgeous. I had a spray when you were chatting to us onto the skin, and there's just this vibrancy, but something that sort of envelops you. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it fits nicely into Cedrus. I think it's like, you know, it's like sometimes, because obviously we tried lots of different things. You know, it's never kind of like, it's never first time. Also, to be honest, if you got it right first time, it would be terribly boring, wouldn't it? You know, there's no, because it has
also,
to be,
everyone would be doing it.
Yeah, and also I think it's just like, it has to bring us something as well, you know, so it's a discovery. I think every fragrance is different, and you know, you have to learn something. I've been doing this for like 35 years, so I have to kind of, it has to bring me something too, otherwise I'd stop doing it, you know. If I felt like, also I suppose if you felt you knew it all, no, you have to stop.
You want a challenge.
Yeah, it has to challenge you still. It has to bring something, and like you don't know, and I like that discovery. That's the fascination. It's the journey, it's the discovery that is the most interesting part of it.
As the sort of consumer changes, what do you then feel is the biggest challenge to create like a best-selling scent, things that people really connect with?
You know, I think that it's so difficult to know what's going to be a best-selling scent. You never know. So I think you just have to not even think about this. I think it's just concentrate on, it's like almost don't look that far ahead. And that's what I try and do is, I don't extrapolate. I don't think about where it's going to go. I'm just on my day-to-day in terms of, does this smell the way I want it to smell? And does it surprise me? Where can I take it next? So I'm very much in, I don't look too far ahead. And, you know, it'll be a blockbuster or not, because you can get some great fragrances out there that, you know, deserve more success, but don't, because it's always a mix. You know, it depends on the brand, it depends on the bottle, it depends on the concept. Is it too early? Is it too late? There's so many factors that are out of our control. So I think it's just better to kind of base on doing something that you're convinced, I'm convinced, is something that's interesting and smells good and people are going to want to wear. So that all sounds very easy. And obviously it's not.
No.
So, and yeah, it remains personal. You have to, I can't think about everyone else.
No.
I can only judge it myself. So in a way, I create for myself. I create for myself. You have to, you have no choice, because otherwise it's impossible if you start thinking about everyone else. I can't do it like that. Maybe other perfumers do it differently, but I have to, it has to please me. It has to make me, you know, talk to me. And if it doesn't, then how can I imagine it talks to anyone else? So.
What would you say is then more important, the feeling or the smell, or do they go hand in hand?
I think that the smell provokes emotions. So it's like and that's very personal. So you don't know what emotions, it's going to provoke different emotions depending on who it is. And you can't please everyone. I think we should forget trying to please everyone. You know, even the blockbusters, they only, you know, if you look at it, it's only a small percentage of people who actually choose to buy them. So forget that. You know, just concentrate on doing things that smell good, that have got a signature, that are powerful, that people, or not. You know, not everybody wants blockbusters. Some people want things that are more intimate. It's not at all the market, but I think you do have people who don't want fragrances that leave a huge trail. Maybe, I mean, today I'd say that everybody wants fragrances that are powerhouses, which I think is a shame, because it kind of, there's a certain violence sometimes in some fragrances, and sometimes you have to do that because that's what is required of us. It's what the market requires. It's not always your personal taste.
No.
I do create for myself, but I would say that I wouldn't always choose to wear what I create.
No, I like that. I think the market, and I suppose especially with social media, you know, we've got some of these buzzy, awful terms, in my opinion, like beast mode. And there's something to be said about something that sits so close and really is just for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it frustrating or challenging to, I suppose, create something which is artistic, but also something that is going to sell and for a market?
Yeah, I mean, you hope that you can do both.
Yeah.
You know? You hope that you can do both, because I mean, the thing about perfume is you can create the greatest perfume that you really think is an absolute marvelous kind of, you know, iconic being, because it's kind of living. But if no one buys it and chooses to wear it, it doesn't exist. So, I mean, somewhere along the line, we need to, you can be proud, obviously, of what you've done, but somehow as a perfumer, you only exist through the success on the market. So you need to have that. But I think it's like you have to think of that as a result of doing things right to start with. So it's like, if you do things right to start with, you follow, you know, what you believe, your instincts, your convictions, and you hope that's going to touch people in the right way. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, and it's, I think you have to be pragmatic about it. It's, that's it, you know, it's like, so it's a lot of judgment, and you have to take a step back from that, and, you know, and you're only as good as your last win, I suppose, you know, in terms of, so you need to keep on doing it. You have to reinvent yourself. But I think that's good, you know, to challenge yourself, to kind of not keep doing the same things because it's easy, but to push yourself outside the comfort zone.
How much of other people's work do you consume? And the reason I ask is, you've been ahead of the curve in certain trends, you know, thinking about you and Cherry. You sort of really pushed that forward. Was that something that you saw and thought, oh, I think this could work, let's push this way?
That's more,
or was it a chance?
You know, it's actually, that was Tom Ford and his team that wanted to do a Cherry.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, when they brief you on something that's so specific, you think, oh my God, we're all going to do the same. But fundamentally, no, people have got lots of different interpretations of how you do the cherry, and it was a cherry tonka. So, and it was the first fruit that Tom had ever done. You know, so it was kind of it's a challenge, but it was fun. And obviously there's no tests. It's kind of like, you know, it was amazing and it was private blend, you know, they never imagined it would be, you know, and it became really, and I suppose that's a question of timing.
And it still is.
You know, and it's, and then we've got kind of launched, you know, their little flankers that have come off for it as well. But you just never know that. No. And I think that was very, I would say as well, I was working with an evaluator. You know what evaluators are, that they kind of work with perfumers to develop. And she was the one who's pushing. And in fact, internally in Estee Lauder, it's a person called Karen Curry who was always developing with Tom Ford. And they were pushing me to go. I was just like, no, this is really, really cherry. So, and we were just like going further and further. It's like, you know, really, you know, sometimes you need someone to push you outside your comfort zone. I was like, it's really, really cherry. You think, well, yeah, let's go more. And finally, that one that went more, you know, it's never on your own. You need people to kind of just say, get up the arse, you know, it's like, go on, you know, you need to go a bit further. And it's good.
I love that.
You know?
What is it that excites you and that keeps you doing this? Like, would there be something else you'd want to do?
You know, I think it's because you never know with this job, you know, and it's always a discovery. So, and in fact, I won't say that now, but I'm also working as like an in-house perfumer for the brand Carol. You know, it's like a French house, and that's a very different way of working. So I think that kind of, you know, it's totally different, and that actually reinforces and gives me more energy. And I think, you know, if I felt like I knew what I was doing, I'd probably stop. Now, I think it's always a discovery. You know, you never know what it's going to smell like. That's the thing. You never know, and you try things, and it's never exactly how you think. So that for me is just it keeps it going. You know, and yeah, I'm not done with it yet. No. Maybe soon, but not yet. You know, it still keeps me. It excites me still, and I think as long as it excites you and motivates you and gives you pleasure, then you keep doing it. One
final question for you.
Sure.
The audience I talk to are looking to find the perfect fragrance for them. Yeah. Do you have a top tip to find the perfect fragrance?
It's really hard, I think, to work out what you like, because there's no one who really helps you. I mean, how do you find information? I suppose it's trying to work out what style of note you like. I think there's no perfect solution. And also, a perfect fragrance for a certain person at a point in time can change. You know, I would say that the perfect fragrance for you right now might be a certain thing, and like in a year's time, it's probably changed. So I think it's like it's dynamic, it's moving. So I don't think there is a way. I wish I did know, because I'd be a billionaire. You know, it's like if I could help people, you know, tell them this is how you find your perfect fragrance. Come to me and I'll tell you. But I think there's no. It's but at the same time as well, you know, it's a good thing. It allows people to discover. You know, it opens you up, opens your chakra, you know, to other things that maybe that you didn't think about and you didn't imagine you would like. It forces you to search. I think searching is really important in life, you know, searching for things, you know, finding things by chance. I think that's, you know, something that, well, for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's, so yeah, I think it's good that there's no perfect way to find your perfect fragrance, that maybe by tripping over it is what gives you the most joy.
I love that. Thank you very much, Louise. Thank you for your time. So lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.